now, in Nepal, the streets are boiling. Everything has been swept away by the power of the people, especially the youth. Nepal today stands on the edge of revolution. After Bangladesh, once again, it's the masses pouring out onto the streets. So what exactly happened? Let me break it down for you. The biggest turning point came when the government banned social media. The youth, already frustrated, simply exploded. Corruption has reached levels you can't even imagine. Think about it. Ordinary Nepalis are forced to leave their own homeland just to survive abroad. Every institution corrupt, police corrupt, army corrupt, judiciary corrupt, media corrupt, politicians corrupt, bureaucracy corrupt. Everywhere you look, corruption eats away like a disease. And when people finally raised their voices, the government's solution was shut down social media. All platforms blocked. But that was their fatal mistake. The moment you try to silence the people, anger boils over. The youth and ordinary citizens hit the streets. Then came the crackdown. Arrests, clashes, and violence. People lost their lives. And that was it. The people snapped. They burned down the Congress Party headquarters, gathered outside the parliament, and even reached the houses of politicians. Homes were set on fire. Total chaos. Ministers, opposition leaders, all went underground. Some are fleeing abroad, some hiding, some preparing their private jets. Nobody knows where they are. The public even climbed onto military vehicles to show their rage. Realizing their mistake, the government quickly unbanned social media. But it was too late. Once platforms were back, messages flooded in. Come out on the streets! And the people came out in massive numbers. So huge that the government completely lost control. Ministers began resigning one after another. They knew the people's fury was unstoppable. Crowds shouted, "Enough is enough! No more corruption!" They accused the politicians, the army, the judiciary, the police, everyone of eating up the people's hard-earned taxes. And now the Prime Minister himself is reportedly preparing to leave on a private jet. Just like always, leaders loot the country, stash money abroad, and when collapse comes, they escape, leaving the people in ruins. But here's the real question. Is this a genuine revolution or a regime change operation? We saw this in Bangladesh. The people rose, Hasina Wajid was forced out, but the revolution was hijacked. No generals punished, no ministers punished, no bureaucrats punished. Just elections announced, but no real justice. Same corrupt elites remained in power. Nepal now stands at the same crossroad. If real accountability doesn't happen, if the corrupt aren't punished, then this too will be hijacked. A new face may be installed, but the system will remain the same. That's not revolution. That's regime change. Look at Iran. Recently, a regime change plan was in motion there too. Ministers and generals were asked to make videos denouncing Ayatollah. They refused. Israel wanted to push protests, but the plan failed. China and Russia helped Iran strengthen defenses. The regime didn't fall. In Nepal, the first stage has already happened. Ban, protests, chaos, government losing control. But the second stage is more critical. Will justice be served, or will another puppet be installed? And don't forget, this unrest isn't stopping here. Venezuela is already in deep crisis. And maybe next, India. Modi's support is weakening as inflation bites hard. Even France faces no confidence threats. The world right now is in turmoil. Revolutions rise, but many get hijacked. The real battle isn't just on the streets, it's about what comes after. This is Truth Uncovered.
What caused the protest in Nepal? The protests that shook Nepal in September 2025 began with one bold move by the government. The decision to ban 26 of the most popular social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and X. Officials claimed the ban was necessary because these platforms had failed to register under new regulations designed to fight misinformation and online crime. But for the young generation of Nepal, especially Gen Z, this was not about regulation. It was about censorship. The ban came like a spark, landing on dry grass. For years, young people in Nepal have lived under the shadow of corruption, nepotism, and inequality. They have watched as the children of powerful politicians flaunted wealth and luxury online, while many of them struggled to find jobs and felt trapped in poverty. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram had become places where this inequality was exposed, and when the government silenced those voices, frustration boiled over into the streets. What started as anger over losing access to social media quickly turned into something much bigger. Demonstrations erupted across Kathmandu and other cities. Young protesters, most of them university students and first-time activists, marched with placards, chanted against corruption, and demanded change. Their frustration was not only about losing their digital spaces, it was about decades of mismanagement, lack of opportunities, and politicians who seemed disconnected from the struggles of ordinary people. But the government responded harshly. Security forces used tear gas, rubber bullets, and even live ammunition to disperse crowds. Water cannons rolled through the streets of the capital, and curfews were imposed. At least 19 people lost their lives, hundreds were injured, and government buildings and media offices were damaged. The situation grew so tense that the army was deployed, and Kathmandu's main international airport was forced to shut down as protests raged nearby. The tragedy, however, did not silence the people. Instead, it forced the government to retreat. The social media ban was lifted, and Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli announced his resignation, though he remained in power as a caretaker. But the young protesters were not satisfied with half measures. They began to call for deeper reforms, a complete restructuring of the government, accountability for corrupt leaders, and even the drafting of a new constitution that truly reflects the will of the people. Observers began to call this uprising the Gen Z revolution. Just as young people in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka had recently risen against corruption and inequality, Nepal's youth showed that their